You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to an emergency episode of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Monday afternoon in audio-only fashion. I am not set up right now to talk on camera, just logistically speaking, but wanted to get you something in your audio and video feeds to break down what was an unfortunate piece of news on Monday afternoon. Word broke earlier today, just as I'm recording this podcast within the last hour or so, from Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. First reporting that news, then I was able to confirm it pretty quickly after that Saddiq Bey, who left the game on Sunday evening with what was originally described as a hyperextended left knee after he suffered it in that fourth quarter, he's not going to be out for the season and beyond with a torn ACL in that left knee. This is not a huge shock if you watch the play. It was kind of a somber tone after the game last night. We certainly did not know this was going to be the reaction, and certainly we were hoping for the best on this because everybody seems to like Saddiq, and you never want anybody to be down for as long as he's probably going to be down with his injury. But torn ACL is the diagnosis that I have been told is correct. That certainly rules him out for the rest of this season. As I'm recording this podcast at about 1:10 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday, the Hawks have not officially announced anything, but again, I was able to confirm this is actually going to be the case. And he's had kind of a weird season, which we'll talk about in a second, but Saddiq has been a key contributor to this Hawks team all year long. He's averaging 13.7 points per game, a career high 6.5 rebounds per game this year, and about 33 minutes per contest. He's also basically just been exceedingly durable in his career. I know I mentioned this last night on the show, but if you missed it, and just as a plug, I did a full breakdown episode on the game on Sunday that you should listen to as well. And part of that is my reaction to Saddiq in the moment. But he has appeared in all but 8 games in 4 NBA seasons. He has been extremely durable. This is his first major injury of any kind. Of course, not quite as dire as this, but Trae Young similarly had not suffered any sort of long-term injury until his current ailment with his thumb. Now, Saddiq has only missed 1 game this year. He played a full season without missing a game earlier in his career as well. And again, 8 total games that he has missed. In fact, he's up in the top 10 of the league in games played over that sample size. He's in the top 25 this year in minutes played in the NBA. Despite not being a star or not even necessarily being a starter all year long, he's been a huge part of what the Hawks have done this year. And there's a lot of impact, which we'll talk about in a second, both on the team and also on Saddiq's future. But that is what I wanted to make sure we lead with, is that this is just brutal for all parties involved, especially the player. I mean, obviously, Hawks fans are worried about the Hawks, and I totally get that. But this is a guy that has a high character guy by all accounts, a durable guy who likes to play. He's very tough, and just brutal news for sure at that point in time. So a couple of different aspects here that we'll talk about. One is the rest of the season for the Hawks, and then also into next year potentially. And then also the other looming factor is that unfortunately for Saddiq, he is a pending free agent. There were discussions between the Hawks and Saddiq Bey and his agent in particular about an extension before the season. Of course, it went down to the very end on both Saddiq Bey and Onyeka Okongwu, who were both in that same draft class. They ended up giving Okongwu an extension. They agreed on one there. They did not do so with Saddiq. They did talk, but I'd heard the whole time that Saddiq was asking for a lot of money, and there's something wrong with that whatsoever. And I think he's been more of like a rotation forward than an actual full-fledged starter. But he's been starting for the Hawks a lot this year. He's a key piece. So the timing is it's never good to have a year-long, basically, injury. And people were asking me this question as well immediately after. I can't tell you how long he's going to be out. Essentially, though, ACLs are generally ballpark about a year in general. I mean, it could be less than that. It could be 8-9 months. He's had this injury in the middle part of March. It would surprise me if he played before Christmas. That's 9.5 months from now. That's not the whole time of next year. It could be longer than that for sure. But we're all guessing, including even right now, he hasn't had surgery yet. It's an initial diagnosis, but it's going to be a long time, unfortunately, for Saddiq, and it would be shocking to everyone I think involved if he played opening night next year, which sort of factors into that free agency. So it's really brutal news no matter when it happened, but because he does not have a deal for next year, they didn't find an extension, he'll hit the market as a free agent this summer with this lingering over him. Now, at the same time, NBA teams understand that like he's not going to be out forever. ACLs are not this career ruining injury the way they might have been 30, 40 years ago. Modern medicine, all of that stuff, and Saddiq should be hopefully fine and back to his old self within a year or so. But it should, I don't want to say should, but could limit his market as far as what he's going to sign for, etc. Part of that also, he wasn't having the best season, which we'll talk about, I guess, a little bit more. I feel bad even mentioning that, but people have been asking me that. He didn't shoot the ball well this year. He was certainly playing better in other aspects. Again, career high in rebounds. His defense has gotten better as the season's gone along. He brings this physicality. He's actually done a great job this year getting to the rim. His drives have been really more upticking throughout the course of the season. So all that's thrown into the same pile. But as far as like what's next for the Hawks and what's next for Saddiq, it's a TBD. Like, on one hand, I got questions about whether this is actually more likely to keep him in Atlanta. I don't know the answer to that. I do think that unfortunately it's going to impact his market. If I had to guess right now, I think that whether he signs in Atlanta or somewhere else, he's probably going to be signing as a 6th, 7th man versus being a starter, etc. We'll have more time on that. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's already too much probably at this point in time, but that's where we are on that aspect. And just brutal news. And I wish the timing was better obviously just wish it didn't happen, but the timing is awful for Saddiq. I wish he had that long-term security right now, but hopefully he will still be able to secure a big deal in free agency somewhere, whether it's in Atlanta or somewhere else. Before we get to the Hawks side, I should just insert a break here from our sponsor on today's podcast. We'll kind of talk about the rest of the fallout here because, of course, Atlanta has all kinds of injuries. It's been a brutal time for the Hawks in general, but we'll have more on that in a second. First, a word from our partners on the show. Today's show is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little bit further when you are behind the wheel? Do you ever happen to wonder what adventure could be around the next corner when you're driving? Our friends at Nissan have lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. And the 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and for great escapes alike. It has a class-exclusive Google built-in that's your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything available to you. Gone are the days of connecting your phone because Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system with the Nissan Rogue. And the 2024 Rogue is perfect midsize crossover for your next big adventure. And also, the lineup is incredible with Nissan. It also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder, which seats up to 8 people. Also has expansive cargo capacity along with advanced available 4x4 capability. It also has 284 horsepower, up to 6,000 pounds of towing. When adventure calls, the Pathfinder is going to be there to answer that call. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, Nissan Armada, and go out and find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. One more time, that is nissanusa.com. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Whether you're hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the roles that you have available, and that's why you should check out the folks at LinkedIn Jobs. They have tools to find the right professionals for your team, do it faster, and do it for free. I've been doing this for quite some time now, my day job, having to hire people a few different times, and the folks at LinkedIn Jobs have made life a lot easier and more efficient by what they offer. They know that small businesses are wearing a ton of different hats in their lives. They may not have the time resources needed to hire properly. And LinkedIn is not just another job board. They have a network of more than 1 billion professionals that makes it the best possible place to find that person you are looking for. It gives you access to professionals they can't find anywhere else. And LinkedIn does all that work while making the process easy and intuitive for you. Hiring is much easier when you have that many qualified candidates available. It's so easy, in fact, that 86% of businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours, and they're also helping to find ways to make the process easier for you. And 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn Jobs for hiring purposes. Post your job for free by going to linkedin.com/lockedonnba. One more time, that is linkedin.com/lockedonnba. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so coming out of that first half of it, just the logistics of the injury, the fact that it's just awful news. I feel terrible for Saddiq. I'm gutted by it. The Hawks do have this situation now where they're not only replacing his minutes, but just the fact that they have so many injuries right now. And I said last night, and I still maintain this, because of the situation and the teams around them, the Hawks are still favorites, in my opinion, to make the play-in. That's not always the biggest priority, of course, but certainly the logistics here. There's some uncertainty with Jalen Johnson's ankle. He could be back soon. I'm recording this podcast Monday afternoon. The Hawks don't play again until Wednesday night. It would not blow me away if Jalen played Wednesday. I wouldn't project that, but it's at least conceivably possible. At the moment, though, the Hawks are just in this situation where they have so many injuries. Of course, number one on the list being Trae Young. Jalen's been out, but Okongwu's been out for a while. He's going to be out for a while longer. Now Saddiq's out for the season. That is essentially 4 of their top 7 guys from this year, at least 4 of their top 8 conservatively guys. that are already out and out for a little bit of time on at least 3 of those 4 with Trey, Onyeka, and Saddiq, with Jalen coming back in the near future. Then you don't have Kobe Buffkin right now for a little while longer, who had been their backup point guard for the time that Trey had been out, and of course their first round pick from this year, high upside guy in the future, etc. They also have injuries in the G League right now, which might sound like it doesn't matter that much, but these are real guys that they are banking on for the future. Like, for instance, Seth Lundy, who I'm a big fan of, second round pick this year, has missed, I believe it's the last 6 games in College Park with some sort of back issue. I'm not entirely sure what that is, because College Park's injury reporting, the G League does not have the same restrictions and specifications for how much you have to be clear on your injury reporting, so we don't really know what's going on there, but he's missed 6 games. AJ Griffin is still working back into his old form, but he's actually missed the last 2 games with a knee issue of some kind in College Park. So those are 2 guys who are not the same position as Saddiq, but who are wing-sized players with some bulk and some physicality, and they're not available right now, as they weren't in the last couple of games. Mo Gay, who they drafted this year as well, with a top 40 pick, has missed the vast majority of the year. He has come back in College Park, but even then, in recent days, he's only been limited to 16 minutes or less in College Park. He's missed, I think, like 3 of the last 6 games with College Park for that management of that back injury, so TBD there as well. So maybe those guys can help in the near future, but right now, they are not available to play at the NBA level that we are aware of. So that's even 3 more guys in addition to all the injuries. So they have so many guys out that is a real challenge for what they're going to do, especially, let's just say for Wednesday and then on this road trip. Again, ideally, Jalen Johnson's back in the near future. That wouldn't cover up everything, because Saddiq Bey, again, has played more than 2,000 minutes this year. A lot of that has included games where they've had Jalen and DeAndre Hunter, and he's still played that many minutes. So I've ragged on this before this year. The Hawks have essentially had a situation where they've only had 3 NBA high rotation caliber forwards on their roster this year. That was a roster construction problem from the very beginning this season. The 4th guy, Onyeka Okongwu, has played a lot of 4 minutes. He's still a center in my mind, but he was the only center on the team that could play some power forward, and he has, but he's also out right now. The rest of their guys, at least their regular rotation players, they have some wing-sized players, Bogdanovich, Garrison Matthews, Wes Matthews, etc. Those guys are all 6'6" or shorter. It's not all about height necessarily, but Bogey is really a 2/3. Garrison Matthews is really purely a shooting guard. Wes Matthews is a forward, but certainly a size-limited, offense-limited forward. So right now, the reality is the Hawks have one forward that you trust, like fully trust to play at a high level and start and play, top 6 on a team kind of minutes at the forward spot, and it's DeAndre Hunter. Again, they could have Jalen back soon, but at this very moment, Hunter is the only guy that you can pencil in for 30-plus minutes of good and high-level NBA contributions at the forward spots. That is not where you want to be, obviously. And Hunter's been limited minutes-wise recently. He played 35 or 36 last night. That's hopefully what he can do moving forward, but there is some uncertainty with the knee that they've been trying to manage for the last several weeks. But anyway, even if you were to assume that Hunter plays 34, 35, 36 minutes a game, that's only 3/4 of one forward slot. You know what I mean? They have a lot of time they have to fill. Clearly, Bogey's playing a lot right now already because he's playing a lot of 2-guard, but Bogey, Garrison Matthews are really the guys they definitely want to play as much as possible right now. Vit Krejci has started the last 2 games. He's not a guy that you would have said a week ago would be a huge part of their plan, but he'll be playing minutes, I think, right now, especially until Jalen comes back. They had Dylan Windler on the team, who they signed recently to a 2-way contract. He's not played yet. He is much closer to a power forward-sized player than someone like Garrison or Vit Krejci even. Windler is at least a good rebounder, has played some 4 at the professional level, mostly in the G League, but has played there a little bit. I think he'll probably play a little bit moving forward. Wes Matthews is not a high upside guy, but he can at least plug some minutes for you, but they have not wanted to play Wes a lot of minutes this year. He's an older guy. I can't imagine him playing more than 20 minutes in a game, and maybe he will, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And offensively, he's very limited at this point. So they have depth in the G League. If those guys can get healthy, I'd love to see Seth Lundy healthy and playing some small forward minutes in a bigger picture sense. They're going to probably have to play DeAndre Hunter as a full-time power forward for as long as Jalen is out in particular, because Saddiq is now gone for the season. And Hunter, while he's still more of a small forward in a lot of ways, he can play the 4. He's going to have to play the 4 extensively. When Akamu comes back, maybe he plays more at the 4 than he has so far, because you could play him and Clint at least together a little bit, and they've had some reasonable success with that. They could qualify. I'll just say this now for some clarifications. People ask me about the hardship exception for the Hawks, which basically allows NBA teams, if they are just battered by injuries, to add players. The Grizzlies, in fact, who the Hawks played on Friday, had a couple of hardships that they've been able to use to add in 10-day contract guys to just stop the bleeding a little bit. But it's kind of a tricky criteria you have to match in order to get a hardship exemption. You have to have at least 4 players out at the same time for at least 3 games, which right now they have not quite qualified for. Only 3 guys have missed that many time, Trey, Onyeka, and Kobe, and Bey has not gotten there yet. Maybe Seth Lundy would qualify, but he is technically on a 2-way. He's in the G League, so I don't know if he qualifies. From there, they have to project to be out at least 2 more weeks is the wording that's in the official outline there. And I'm not sure that Kobe and Onyeka will definitely match that. The Hawks might know that more than we do. Bey, of course, does. Trey, of course, still is going to be out for at least 2 more weeks. But even if they were to get cleared for a hardship exception, that's going to be a guy that you're going to sign on a 10-day contract. And generally speaking, players who are, let's just say, players who are available in mid-March, post the deadline when you can be eligible to play in the postseason and eligible to sign a 2-way contract, guys who are still out there right now are not great. That's kind of the reality. Could they help? Could they just get some more size in there? Could they sign Chris Silva to a 10-day contract? Sure, and that would help you just with physicality and just with some overall depth, because right now, let's say for Wednesday's game, if they don't have Jalen back, if they don't have Seth back, if they don't have AJ or Moguet, which I'm assuming they probably don't, the Hawks are essentially down to playing every minute of a game at the forward spots with Hunter, Krejci, Windler, Wes Matthews, unless you want to sprinkle in a little bit of Garrison or Bogey at the 3. That isn't where you want to be. And by the way, that doesn't even get into the fact that if you get an injury at center right now to either Capella or Bruno, or even foul trouble to one of those guys, but especially an injury, there's no mechanism. Jalen Johnson is their only forward-sized player who can really play center at all. DeAndre Hunter cannot play center in a realistic way. Dylan Windler can't play center in a realistic way. Maybe Moguet gets there, but Moguet, they also believe Moguet is a forward. Like, they're not really treating him as a center in any meaningful way either. So, yeah, the depth is really rough right now. And this is not a team that's not trying to win right now. This is a team that's trying to get into the play, and they're treating every game like they're trying to win it. They're playing guys, you watch that even on Sunday, and again, they lost. They were certainly trying to win that game. They were playing their guys real minutes. Murray played 41 minutes in that game. Hunter, they pushed minutes-wise. So, of course, the hope is that Jalen is able to return soon. That would certainly help things. But even if Jalen is back, you still only have 2 guys you trust, and you're still filling in minutes with guys like Windler, with guys like Krejci, who were not at all in your plans even 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the drop-off, even no matter what you think about Saddiq, and I've heard different opinions, mostly before the injury was, I think most people are not cold enough to talk about Bey's struggles this year. But no matter what you think about Saddiq and his shooting, all that stuff, Saddiq is a proven NBA top 7 player on a pretty good team. Saddiq Bey is a rotation player at the very least on an NBA team, and the drop-off from Saddiq Bey to someone like Vit Krejci or Wes Matthews or AJ Griffin right now or Moguet right now or Dylan Windler right now, Seth Lundy right now is huge. Saddiq Bey is much, much better than all of those guys. Much better. And so yeah, I'll stop ranting now and stop rambling now, but this is my quick emergency reaction to this. It's awful news. Hopefully we'll get some positive news with regard to how the surgery went, and maybe some more timelines that are rough from the reporting. The Hawks probably won't put out any sort of timeline other than out for the season. It's awful. Want to certainly express that, and I wish Saddiq the very best no matter what happens at the end of the season as far as where he ends up signing, whether it's in Atlanta or not. But he could help the Hawks short-term, long-term, all that stuff, and I think that he has been a really valuable piece on the organization. Quinn loves Saddiq Bey. That's not a secret. He's a big fan. Community stuff, he's always been really, really high and character guy. So it's brutal news. The Hawks are in a tough spot right now. We'll see what Wednesday's roster looks like. I'll have much more. I'm planning on doing a podcast tonight that's not really about the current roster, but if there's any more news, I'll add to that episode, hopefully, in the meantime, and I'll have my sort of normal show after the game on Wednesday, so please subscribe to the podcast if you have not already done that. But yeah, an awful result. worst case scenario, unfortunately, for everybody involved, and Saddic's going to be out for a long time. So that's the reality of the situation right now for the Hawks. Tell a friend about the podcast, subscribe to the show. My apologies for this sort of lo-fi audio-only edition if you are usually a YouTube subscriber, but we'll have back to video with our next episode. And without any further delay, I appreciate you listening, and we'll see you all next time.